So, what's next on the plate? No thanks. What? What do you mean I signed a contract? Ladies and jellyfish, wumbles of all sizes, welcome back to A.S.K's videos. Welcome back to my definitely finite project to review every episode of SpongeBob in 10 words or less. Today, Season 7. For new reviewers, I'll rate every episode of the season great, good, meh, bad, or boo, and give each a brief review in 10 words or less. By the way, if you haven't seen my other videos like my super reviews, feel free to check them out now. In fact, I've reviewed episodes like Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy, so I'm sure you'll love it. Anyway, we have 48 11-minute episodes and 2 specials to cover, so let's get it on. When Zoo Service gets a cameo, you know it sucks. Gotta love that title. Hey, at least Mr. Krabs is determined. The whole world turning on SpongeBob is unjustified. Try again. A pretty clever and creative episode. At least SpongeBob's not an oblivious moron. I like the sponge scene at least. Take the world and drop it on Scooter's head. It's like you take great and you flip it. So what can be rude about Patrick this time? It's a great journey to a nice climax. Kinda forgettable. What is this? A good attempt, but a butchered moral. Patrick needs to die. It's like a Viacom Give Stan Lee a spin-off. Let's make an episode about what gets on everyone's nerves. Don't forget to read the plot. The plot is way too messy. No snail puppy love on this channel. Not yet. Extra, extra, Snorefest coming to town. Weird cowheads? Ravioli, ravioli, be more originally. How can we make Krabs even more flanderized? PewDiePie's titles are less clickbaity. I love this plot. Oh please, make a good episode. Oh please. How can we copy Hooky again? What is this? Why did the Garbage Pail Kids merge with the Grocery Gang? A great patty caper. Get it? That sinking feeling indeed. More like Karate Not-Star. I imagine a world with the perfect plot and sense. Stupid Patrick ruins everything. What a cool way to bring back SpongeBob sponginess. A pretty relatable story. Screw you, episode. Ravioli, ravioli, be more originally. That title doesn't apply to the episode quality. I think this might be a reference to something. We get it, you really don't care. I don't ship it. We need to have Krabs' whole weirdo thing blow up. It's all Patrick's fault. All of it. Boring and pointless, like my social life. Let's rehash a horrible Season 5 romantic episode. I thought he ain't got no sister. Wow, ending it strong. Now that all that's finished, let's jump straight into the top and bottom 5. Number 5 best goes to Cracked Krabs. This episode is so creative. Plot is very reminiscent of Shell of a Man, where SpongeBob tags along with Mr. Krabs to do something for his reputation. The jokes are all very funny, and you can feel a nice bond between Krabs and SpongeBob, and Mr. Krabs as greed is finally used correctly. Number 5 worst, that sinking feeling. This episode is so annoying. It almost feels like a kid's troll joke. Those things kids immediately say after their parents say not to do, and they somehow find a loophole to do it anyway. And to think this is written so poorly to that point feels almost insulting. Scooter did nothing to them in this episode. In fact, he very clearly told them his boundaries in a straightforward way, and they continually annoy Scooter to the point where his house gets completely submerged underground, and SpongeBob and Patrick still don't understand what they did wrong. Number 4 best, the Great Patty Caper. Wow, this is a great special indeed. It apparently had 2 names, the other of which being Mystery with a Twistery, which would have been a much better title, but I guess whatever. It follows a funny mystery plot that was severely missing in modern or even all of SpongeBob, especially because the dialogue and animated humor SpongeBob likes to have really fits with the genre of mystery. It has a lot of fun twists, and I would just totally recommend it. Number 4 worst, A Pal for Gary. A Pal for Gary is the worst thing in the history of anything ever. It is wrong in a lot of ways. SpongeBob's naive and oblivious character doesn't work here as a joke because of the cruel nature, and it is wrong as a plot point because of how obviously in his face they make it to be. Gary getting quote-unquote tortured is not a funny joke or plot element if nothing comes out of it, and is just a snail getting quote-unquote tortured. SpongeBob either reacting badly to Puffy Fluffy or being oblivious when Gary getting hurt isn't right in his face, and later apologizing to Gary for not noticing would make it for an enjoyable episode. but for what it is, it checks out as a strong boo. Number 3 best, perfect chemistry. What have Sandy and Plankton interacted before? Well, apparently their first interaction was someone to the kitchen with Sandy, which will come back later, by the way. But the only other time was the last freaking episode of season 7, perfect chemistry. I think these two characters have been held back for long enough, and this is the first and best episode where they truly talk about sciencey inventions, things both characters have in common, and do a pretty good job at that. The jokes were actually pretty funny, from SpongeBob's body parts disappearing to the amazing fart joke that actually gives fart jokes a good prep because of how well timed, well delivered, and not prolonged it was. Overall, a great one. Number 3 worst, stuck in the ringer. What can I say about this one that hasn't been said before? Well, the plot is a rehash of the Splinter, and we all know what an amazing episode that is. There's literally no comedy, the Bikini Bottom eyes turning on SpongeBob is stupid and lazy and totally unjustified, and Patrick doesn't get his comeuppances. And that's that. Number 2 best, the inside job. This episode is so creative. The plot is creative, the jokes are creative, the characters and their motivations are creative, and the animation is very creative for season 7. Pretty much all the jokes and plot points work and are very clever and funny. And Plankton's lead in this episode was also a plus. Number 2 worst, someone's in the kitchen with Sandy. Yes, I do think this episode is worse than all the others on this list so far. And here's why. If you haven't seen my super review on it, by the way, do that now. Anyway, the plot is very slow and boring, and also very messy. SpongeBob's scenes with Plankton in the kitchen are tedious and frustrating, and Sandy's scenes are very lazily mashed together and feel so insulting, especially because Sandy did literally nothing the entire episode. And the ending is a bore too.
And the golden egg goes to
the abrasive side. This episode is brilliant. The plot is very clever and reminds me of Suds, another episode that used SpongeBob's spongy nature effectively. The idea to give SpongeBob an abrasive green side is very funny, and you wonder why they haven't incorporated it in another episode. The characters are all themselves and feel right, and the comedy is downright amazing. The overtime joke with Mr. Krabs especially had me laughing out loud. And the animation is also very nice, and the design of the abrasive side is very good too. A funny and clever episode that incorporates all of the cast in an 11-minute runtime deserves a grand applause.
And the rotten egg goes to
yours, mine, and mine. Wow, what an abomination. This isn't my least favorite episode of SpongeBob, that would be Choir Boys, but this is still one of the worst cartoon episodes ever. Patrick literally needs to die in this episode. I know I'm screaming over a cartoon episode where Patrick keeps a toy Krabby Patty away from SpongeBob, but hey, I'm a cartoon reviewer. Patrick completely turns into Jerky Patrick for absolutely zero reason, and there's zero comedy. The storyline is very slow-paced and stale, and that ending is so insulting. An episode with not a bad idea in terms of plot goes, but a completely botched final product. So there you go. Before we get into the stats, here are all the golden and rotten eps before this season. Due to a wonderful fan request, now we have a wildcard episode. An episode that wasn't in top or bottom 5 and stood out to me as the most memorable episode of the season. It could be a bad episode, but it's unlikely. Anyway, this season's wildcard episode was Earworm. The plot is very relatable and fun, the song is very catchy, the comedy is actually pretty funny, although not as common, and the characters all do something. So yeah, kudos to Earworm for being so good. It wasn't great because the song does get a little repetitive at times, and the comedy was a little low in terms of quantity, but I guess quality over quantity, right? Anyways, we had 5 greats, 7 goods, 15 mehs, 14 bads, and 9 boos. Clearly, the meh takes the lead in terms of numbers, and bad is a close second. But let's see which side, better or worse, has more episodes, and then find the average rating later, like last season. So if we split meh into 7 and 7, and add great, good, meh versus meh, bad, and boo, we see that the better side has 19 episodes, while the worst side has 30. So we know that the worst side has more episodes. Now, we know that each rating takes up 2 numbers out of 10. For example, boo takes up 1 and 2, or meh takes up 5 and 6. Therefore, if we make these numbers out of 100 and find the average, each rating is one of these ratings here on average. Therefore, if we multiply the ratings by the number of episodes in each rating and add them up, then divide them by the total episodes, we get an average episode rating of exactly 61, which fits right into meh. So to take this meh and the worst side from before into consideration, I'd say SpongeBob Season 7 would get a bad. I'd give it a rating of 30 out of 100. Anyways, don't forget to leave your thoughts on SpongeBob Season 7 and this video in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you like what you see. If you're new, feel free to check out my YouTube and watch your videos, and check out my website for links and tons of spoilers. Links as always in the description below and card up above. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!
Chum bucket, sludge bucket, highway fly away. lily liver, pizza giver, mashed potato, kelp tomato. All we are trying to say is give jellyfish fields a chance. Ketchup, funnel, net and guggle, toll booth, rotten tooth, freeway plan, toast and jam, mermaid man, garbage can, citrus fruit, combat boot, give a hoot, gorilla suit. All we are trying to say is give jellyfish fields